We're going to talk about the Haggadah. Haggadah shel Pesach.
הגענו כבר לפסח?
בטח, הגענו לפסח. עוד, in 3.5 weeks, you have Pesach. So, we're going to talk about the Haggadah.
In 2.5 weeks, I'm going to be in Israel.
No, because of the Haggadah, is all based around the Seudah. It's all around the meal, right?
Mom used to tell me 3 weeks after Purim, it's Pesach.
Right. It's 3 weeks.
Okay, don't interrupt Rabbi.
Even though it's right, even though it's a month, but you feel like, yeah. But for some people, Pesach is like all year round. Like don't go here, don't go there. For the fear of the food. Anyway, but the Haggadah is all based around the Haggadah is all based on the Seudah. So and the Seudah, the meal, is the way when the Haggadah was created. People used to eat in a different way than we eat today. They had certain table manners that mostly they learned from the Greeks. So a lot of things that we do on Pesach, in order to understand them, we have to understand how the Greeks and the nobility used to eat at that time. And we have actually a record of that of course, in Greek literature, but also in the Tosefta, which is the addition to the Mishnah, Masechet Brachot. So we'll start with that, and then we'll go to the Haggadah. So, Tosefta Brachot, Dalid, Het says the following. Ketzat Seder HaSeudah. Like, okay, you have a meal, they speak about a fancy event, a banquet, right? אורחים נכנסים ויושבים על גבי ספסלים ועל גבי קתדראות עד שייכנסו כולן. So first, you let the guests in, and they sit on benches and on chairs. Cathedra is a big chair. And we'll see the differences. Later on, they will have recliners. They will be lying on couches. The way we've seen the movies with the guy holding grapes or something, right? So, but they first sit on benches and chairs. Like this is not.
It's not in the movies. That's what I do at home with my wife.
You do? Okay, yeah. You're different. You're Greek.
And then I wake up.
لازم تعوض.
Then I wake up.
Yeah. So anyway. עד שיכנסו כולם, נכנסו כולם, ונתנו להם לידיים. So once everybody comes in, you come, you wait for the guest, everybody is gathered, you bring netilat yadayim. And that's not about, they're not going to eat food, bread. כל אחד ואחד נוטל ידו אחת. And each one of them washes one hand. Why they did that? Because they were going to dip vegetables in dips. That's how they used to eat. That was the appetizer. We're not talking about Pesach. Like all year round, when you have a banquet, you do that. Just like the hors d'oeuvre. This is what you serve. הביאו להם פרפריות, כל אחד ואחד מברך לעצמו, הביאו להם את הכוס, כל אחד ואחד מברך לעצמו. So they go around serving wine and appetizers, and each one says beracha for himself, meaning they're not considering themselves sitting in a big meal together. Regarding that time where they bring the appetizers, right, and the first wine, they say this: לאחר 3 פרפריות אין רשות להיכנס. Once you serve 3 rounds of appetizers, the door is locked. If you come now, you're too late. Like how people put certain time on the, in Brooklyn they call it Syrian time. You say 4 o'clock, you come at 6. In LA they call it Persian time. So the chuppah is at 7, the food is served at 11. This is each one. The construct of how late after you're invited you could come. In Yerushalayim or in Israel at the time, the rule was once we served 3 appetizers, the doors are locked, you cannot come in. Or רבן שמעון בן גמליאל אומר, מנהג גדול היה בירושלים, פורסים מטבחות על גבי פתח. בזמן שהמטבחות פרוסים, אורחים נכנסים. נסתלקו, אין רשות לאורחים להיכנס. Meaning, like you invite people to a banquet, you put you hang a handkerchief or a sheet on the door. They're like a flag, right? The party is here. People come, they come a little late, can I come in? They see the flag is still there, they go in. Once you decide that's it, you take this flag down, and en la'ochim reshut likanes, they cannot come in. Why is that? It sounds strange today, right? But think about this. At that time, you didn't have refrigerators. So when you invited people for a party, everything had to be prepared on the spot. And if you slaughter an animal, then because the main thing is meat, if you slaughter an animal, whatever is left over, you're not going to have anything to do with. You can't keep it. You can't preserve it. So it's going to be thrown away. And if you don't make enough food, it's going to be embarrassing. Just like in a restaurant, in a fine restaurant, it's not that when you come and you enjoy the food, it wasn't standing there on the stove all day, right? But they made it after you ordered. So you're willing to wait for it. So the time when people would come in and get the appetizers and everything, that was the waiting period. So the host counts the people. Okay, we have 30 people. He goes, tells the chef, we have 30 people, make food for 30. So now if someone comes in, he says, well, Hashuma, right? This is going to be embarrassing. We don't have food for that person. So that's why they did that. עלו והסבו, נתנו להם לידיים. אף על פי שנותן ידו אחת, נותן לשתי ידיו. מזגו להם את הכוס, אף על פי שברך על הראשונה, מברך על השנייה. הביאו להם פרפריות, אף על פי שברך על הראשונה, מברך על השנייה, ואחד מברך לכולם. So the Mishnah, the Tosefta says this. After they came in and they were milling around for an hour or so, and now the food is ready, they say, Tfadalu, alu ve'esebu. So now they go to the sort of like a raised platform. It was a bigger hall where they could recline on couches. And this is the source of the Hebrew word traklin. Most people don't use it today, but they have the word prosdor and traklin, the hallway and the hall itself, or the dining room. So they're both Greek words. Prosdor means the leading hallway to the main room. Traklin comes from actually Latin, tri, clinium, 3 recliners, because usually, in most houses you had 3 meal for 3. You have 3 couches, people lie around and eat. So that's why now you realize when you compare it to Pesach, we start the seder with a cup of wine and dipping in the karpas, dipping in the celery, because that's how you start the meal. That was the appetizers. They usually would dip with the vinegar or the haroset. And haroset was something that people ate all year round. How do we know that? Because the Mishnah says, the Gemara speaks about how do you make the haroset dish kosher for Pesach. If it was only on Pesach, you don't need to make it kosher. You only use it on Pesach, but they use it all year round. That's how they used to eat. And another interesting point. You know why they used to dip in vinegar? It was not for today to kill the bugs. There were certain worms in the vegetables that if you eat it raw, they could grow in the digestive system, and there were people who had that. Even in I heard from people in recent memory that they had that. So that was the way to kill the bugs. People use either you eat it cooked, or if you eat raw, you dip it in vinegar.
I have some question, very important.
Yes.
Why the Haggadah? Why our rabbi chose to base himself on the Greek culture, like Hasaba?
Yeah.
First question.
Right. Okay.
Second, the way that you talk about the Haggadah, it's for rich people.
Mm-hmm.
The society was very poor.
Right. So 2 things. Why do we imitate the Greek? Why those things are only for the nobility, right? So this is exactly the message that rabbis were trying to convey. They said all year long you may not have enough food to eat. Maybe you're poor. Maybe you rely on other people. But on Pesach you have to put all this aside and pretend for one night that you're nobility. So, and who's the nobility of the time? The Greeks. The people were oppressed. Like most of it was written after the destruction, right? And if you look around at the time, who are the people who could afford this lifestyle? Is the Greeks or the Romans? Now, but when the rabbis told people, we want you for one day to pretend or to feel what it is to be nobility, they gave them hope. Because it takes a person out of his out of his, this slave mentality. It's mamash, it's out of his misery. And he says, I wish, that's why we say, Hashata hacha, l'shana ba'a be'arad Yisrael. Hashata hacha avdei, l'shana ba'a be'arad Yisrael ab b'nei hurim. Like this year, we here, but we want to be next year in Israel, if you were outside Israel. Then you say, this year, we're here, slaves, but next year, we want to be free people. And really, this is, if you look historically, this is what kept us going. Because every time you sit for the Seder night, you say, you know what, right now, we have maybe, all year long, we have terrible times. But we remember that we were slaves and we got out, and we hope that we'll get out again. That's why one of the few celebrations that were kept in Eretz Israel, with the establishment of the State of Israel, the kibbutzim, the kibbutzim, a lot of the kibbutzim were not just not religious, a lot of them were anti-religious, but they kept the Seder as the central, one of the central celebrations of the year. They changed the whole literature, the whole liturgy. They didn't talk about Mitzrayim. They spoke about the establishment of the State of Israel, or about the rebellion during the Holocaust. And for them, that was that was the main thing. More than that, when whoever decided to I think was Franklin, to create Thanksgiving as a holiday in America, it was crafted after Pesach. It's the same exact thing. If you realize Thanksgiving is so popular in America, it's the same exact thing. You tell the story of the pilgrims coming to America. People don't eat wild turkey or go and pick up their pumpkins, whatever. But when you do that, you reenact a certain moment in time that was really significant, and that's what they did. But as a how would we say, something that is affected by that is that when you talk about, for example, reclining, we don't do it today anymore, except for Eddie in his dreams, right? But we don't do it today. So if you feel uncomfortable, around the table, it's a question of halakha, right? You sit around the table, especially in the more Orthodox families, and everybody, when they get to the wine, they yell, "Oh, you have to do it on the left," and lean and drink. And he said, "This is uncomfortable. It's very difficult to drink like that." So I had guests in my house who wanted to do it really according to halakha. So they put two chairs next to each other and put pillows and try to really lie down and drink. And you say, it doesn't work today. It doesn't work today because we don't sit like that. We sit on chairs. In order to do that, you really have to sit on a lower place on pillows. Not only that, our clothes, the way we dress today, don't allow people to really lounge like that. You need to wear a robe. You want to wear only a robe? Tfadal. This is what Rabbi Shem Tov Gagin was the chief rabbi of London, and he wrote a book called Keter Shem Tov. He passed away in 1948, something like that. And he wrote all the minhagim of the Sephardim. Rabbi Shem Tov Gagin. He's from the Sephardi families of Yerushalayim, like they go back 300-400 years. So in Keter Shem Tov, he writes about that. He says the hasiba, reclining, doesn't fit the European dress code. He says if you go to the cities of India and Iraq, where people still dress with robes, this is for them. It's comfortable. We don't have to do that. So this is where one place where you sort of you have to adjust or upgrade the Haggadah to say there are certain things you could do today the way people eat in fancy events today, not in the past, right? It's good to preserve some of the minhagim because it also reminds us that we were under the rule of the Greeks and we survived them. But anyway, this in general, this is the description of the Saudah, the way they used to do it at the time. So they come in to a lower place, they just eat appetizers, they wash one hand, just like we wash for the kapas, for the celery without bracha. Each one of them says separate bracha because they're not sitting together yet. And then later on, they move to a bigger hall where they have those recliners where they could lie down and they get the real food and they say the bracha together. And this is the framework of the Haggadah. And we'll see when we get to the questions that they are based on those practices. Let's stop here. Tomorrow, Baruch Adonai.